Hello. Welcome to the talk. I'm Sarah. I am the studio head of Sheffield. No, I'm really joking. But we do have these amazing studio heads here with us today. Before we start, we thought it'd be a really good exercise to see who would want to be a studio head one day. Raise your hand. And then we're definitely going to ask this question at the end to see if you still would want to be a studio head. So yeah, definitely, let's get into it. And I really want to hear all about, how did you get into games and obviously a brief history of time. So Paige, I'm going to start with you.
So I've been in games for about 15 years now. Before that, I'm actually an accountant by profession, but I can't claim to be that after spending a bit of time with Andy Baldwin. Definitely not anymore. So yeah, I joined the industry and I never meant to be here. I kind of fell into it. I actually was going for another job as a fleet accountant at BMW, and that was the job I wanted. And I saw... I got headhunted for the position at Sangha as ops manager, and at the time I thought, I didn't know Sangha still existed. But it was my practice interview. That's how I got into the industry. It was a practice interview. I thought I'd see how it goes. Walked into that dev studio on the same day, and I just thought, what is going on? Because I come from quite a corporate background. But yeah, it was amazing, and it's changed my life, and I'm glad to be here.
Amazing. That's awesome. Ed, what about you?
So I answered a job advert that said, "Do you want to play games all day?" Which I did. And I went for the job, but what they were looking for were a couple of 16-year-olds to do some QA.
Yeah.
But I got a job as a programmer at the same place, making early games for the web. I did that for a couple of years and realised I was a really terrible programmer. And luckily, the company that I was with, the MD left, and there was an opening to go out and do biz dev and marketing about all the things that we were doing at the company at the time. So I kind of transitioned somehow into that role, and then from there just kind of carried on moving through biz dev, publishing roles. And then, kind of founded Lab 42 about 7 years ago, and it's all been go from there.
Amazing. That's awesome stuff. Scott?
So I started out as a junior programmer at a company called DID, Digital Image Design, making flight sims. I was really interested in graphics, got into R&D, ended up being the R&D technical lead, which was after 3 years of being a programmer at the studio, which felt really weird, but I was enjoying it. And then things kind of fell apart with Ocean and Infogrames, so I left with the then boss to set up Evolution Studios. We all gave ourselves fancy job titles. I was the tech director. Just buried in detail, not realising that there were things like production that needed to improve, and kind of over the first few iterations of the games that we made, realised that pathological kind of reinvent the wheel was not a good thing to keep doing. Gradually got into agile production methodologies. I was the one who cared about that kind of thing in the programming team, and we knew that if we let the old school producers kind of carry on doing things the way they used to do it, it would just mean horrible crunch. So got dragged kicking and screaming away from the IDE, less and less hands-on over the years. I think it was 16 years at what became Sony Evolution, and then jumped out to run my own indie studio with a bunch of guys, learnt lots there, wore an MD hat, got to do some programming again, which was fun. But it wasn't sustainable, so took a role as a multi-project dev director at Sumo Sheffield, which was brilliant people, but commuting 4.5 hours round trip every day, which killed me. So then I took a role as head of delivery at D3T, but when Sumo came back to me and said, "We were on the verge of suggesting a studio in the Northwest and you left, would you like to have another go at that?" And I pitched, and that's where we are now, Sumo Warrington.
Amazing. That's literally an awesome career. It's clearly that you've all worn so many hats, which I think it's really interesting, as the fact that you're all studio heads now, and that you haven't come from just a clear career path to get to it. So yeah, that's awesome. Which type of job or task do you love, but also which do you dread? Scott, I'm going to ask you that.
I'm terrible for getting into details. If I see a rabbit hole, I'll go down it. And I know that's a terrible thing for in a position of leadership to do, so I have to try and ration it. But it's kind of the thing that I kind of enjoy. It's, I'll immerse myself in something. Used to be programming, then it was kind of agile production. Now it's the occasional spreadsheets and kind of data wang. But I think I also love making it possible for people on the team to do what they want to do. That was part of the realisation over the years, that I was somebody who didn't mind stepping back. And I love it when the team get to work on, whether it's cool tech, cool projects. And so making it possible for people to do that drives me. I mean, on the dreading side, it's uncertainty. I get quite anxious if there's unpredictability and uncertainty in the world. So I go completely OCD and try and consider everything. I overthink, I plan too much. I've got loads of notes for the talk today, which I'm completely...
Which these two didn't, by the way, can I just say. It's been a complete split between them all.
Yeah, it's kind of...
Not your contract review meetings with Gary.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, Ed, I'm going to go to you with this one. Which game are you most proud of?
I think without a doubt, it's Snooker 19. It's a bit of a cop-out because it's a Lab 42 game. But
We got a fan up there. Nice.
we made that game on no budget with 12, 15 people. In 18 months, we had to have 130 players all modelled within the game. We had to rewrite physics in Unreal and all sorts of stuff. And it was just the amount that we got done over that period was pretty unbelievable. And the team hates snooker now, absolutely hate it. But at the same time, they should, well, apart from Justin, actually. But,
we've got a fan.
but at the same time, they should be immensely proud of what they did, because I'm really proud of them for how well they did with that game. It was unbelievable, really.
Yeah. Well done, team. Well done, team. Right, H, for you. So not just what game are you most proud of, like throughout your whole career, what are you most proud of?
Ooh, good
I think
question.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. So I think I'm really proud. There's lots of things that I've done that I'm really proud of, but the one that literally chokes me to this day is winning the Diversity Award for Sumo Leamington.
Another round of applause for that.
Because when we started Sumo Leamington, we started 50-50.
Yeah.
Middle-aged white man, young brown female. So, started off.
It's like H's favourite line. I love it.
And that's what we stand for. It is, and having a really diverse team. A lot of them are here. It means that our product's going to be better. The conversation's a lot more interesting. So, that's by far the most.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's an amazing achievement, really is. So some of the questions I've got are from the audience, so I'll start reading through them. So when you first started in the games industry, did you always plan on progressing through to studio director as the ultimate goal, or did you fall into the role? Scott, I'm going to go with you.
It was a happy accident.
Yeah,
I'm super passionate about programming. I wanted to do that forever. I love tech, and it was just that realisation that other people needed support to kind of be able to do the things they wanted to do. And because I was prepared to do that, I just gradually transitioned away from it. And I think it is just a journey.
Yeah.
I'm not a kind of crazy career planner. Although I plan everything else, my career is the one thing that I've not planned.
Yeah, definitely. Ed, would you say it's pretty similar?
Yeah, I got no idea that this job existed when I first joined. So absolutely, just bundle from one thing to the next, and you kind of find your way.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, H?
Definitely not, because I don't have a background in tech, art.
Yeah.
Any of the the roles that a lot of you do. I didn't think I could ever do this role.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that I was given the opportunity to do it, and I think. Because I care about the people, and our business is all about. That's what we're about. We're people first, right? So
definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So when running your own studio, what keeps you up at night? Ed, I'm going to go to you for that one.
Keeping people happy, actually, is what keeps me up at night, making sure that they've got projects to work on that are the right projects, making sure that they're all taken care of. You don't have a studio without people at all.
Absolutely.
And if they're not happy or they're not fulfilled with what they're doing, then you've got a massive problem, and that's what keeps me up at night.
Yeah, definitely. Scott?
It's the overthinking thing. I do that at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it will just be spontaneous wake up, and the day ahead, the week ahead, it'll be all the possible scenarios, every possible route down the graph. And I know it's futile, but that doesn't help me get back to sleep again.
Yeah, definitely. H?
Yeah, it's really, really similar, actually. It's, I see our role is about giving our people a purpose.
Yeah.
And that is what keeps me up, because it's making sure they've got projects that they're engaged in, enjoying what they're doing. Actually, our vision statement is we make you look forward to tomorrow, so we want that. We want people to feel that. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally understand. I mean, when we did speak about this before, I was saying, obviously my job is not as intense as you guys, but, I always have like a notepad and a pen, by my bedside table. Sometimes I think of new things and I'm like, start writing it down, and I'm like, I shouldn't get into this habit, because it's like, you need to go back to sleep, and then you start overthinking things, and it's not the best time to do that in the middle of the night. So, yeah, interesting. I'm really going to enjoy this next one, and I want the goss, guys. I want the goss. Any regrets? Any regrets? Ed, I'm going to pick on you for this one first.
Nope. No.
I love that. Straight to the point. No.
Of course there are, but if you dwell on them or you think about them, then I wouldn't be here now if I went back and changed anything or anything else. So why regret it, I think?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the honesty. H, any regrets?
A regret that I learned from, I suppose, in a previous studio, I did have somebody that worked for us, and I felt like I kind of let her down.
Right.
And that sticks with me today. And I've spoken to her since, but I think it's made me a better leader and a better manager to be able to deal with that now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You're like more cautious of it. Are you still in touch with that person?
Oh, yeah, still in touch, yeah.
That's good,
yeah.
Definitely. Scott?
I think I regret leaving Sumo in 2018. It was something that I did because I couldn't cope with the commute. And ironically, Gary offered me a little bit of remote work, which with hindsight, we all embrace now. But back then I just couldn't face getting on the train every day. And Sumo Warrington may have happened sooner, it may have happened more differently if I hadn't made that decision back then. But then things maybe wouldn't be like they are today.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not so much a regret, it's just recognising that I learned something. I got perspective from the different job that I took, and obviously wanted to come back to Sumo and build something. So, yeah.
Okay. So the next one is, have you had any setbacks in your career, and how did you overcome these? H.
So it's not really a career setback. It's more of a personal setback, I think, in that, when I first became a mum, I think I was really worried about the balance between work and being a mum. And I think I wasn't as present as I should have been with my daughter. And I made some life decisions because and this is that imposter syndrome that kicks in, because I was almost thinking, well, if I'm not at work and I'm not doing what I need to, then they're going to find someone else to do this, and they're going to be way better than I am.
You're going to get replaced.
Yeah, exactly. And it was that. And I think I spent a lot of time where I should have been spending time with her, but I was still on, messaging, picking up emails, not being present. I don't know, is that a setback or is that a regret? I'm not sure.
It's a really interesting one, and I think it's so common for women when they think about having kids. They're like, am I going to be replaced at work? And there's all sorts that go through, and obviously it's such a big change, but you're both parents as well, so for yourself, obviously from a man's perspective, how did you guys feel?
It's a really interesting one, actually. And I can sympathise and not all at the same time, because because I'm a man.
Sorry.
It's true.
Sorry.
truth hurts. But yeah, so when my youngest was born, she was 2 weeks late. My wife had just come out of hospital. She'd been in hospital before that anyway. And then 4 days later, I flew to Boston for a work trip. So she wasn't very happy about that.
I can imagine.
But it felt like I had to go. It didn't
Of
feel
course,
like it was a choice. But I'm pretty sure that if I turned around to my boss and said, "Oh, I really can't go because I've literally just become a father," then they would have been fine about it. But that's not what goes through your head at that time.
Yeah.
And I think that what I would say is that anyone that does experience that in the future or whatever, then I would just talk to your line manager, your studio director, anybody, because no one's expecting you to do anything that you're not comfortable doing or that you feel is a really bad idea. Yeah,
definitely. Have you got 2 children? Because I know you've just got one beautiful daughter. Was it the same when you had your second kid?
So that was the second one. The first one was So I was out of the country when the first one was born again because I was
Doesn't get better.
He's like, Sarah, shut up.
Again, I'm with work. I was out of the country with work.
Yeah.
Which again, she was 2 weeks early. So
yeah, it was her fault. How dare you? I love that. Scott, how was it for you?
I mean, I think with hindsight, I would do things very differently. I was super committed to work and probably not as committed as I should have been to my kids, to my wife. I kind of look back on it. I mean, there was when my daughter was born, I think 3 weeks before, I went out to GDC. And I was thinking, you know, if my wife goes into labour, I'll be out of the country in the US. But I just felt that for the work, I needed to be there. And I just got the priorities wrong with hindsight. But then I think it's played out, that kind of role model has played out differently for my kids. So my eldest son's just graduated from Keele Uni on a computer science course. He thought he wanted to follow in my footsteps. On graduating, he's decided he doesn't want anything to do with programming.
Right. Production? Come to our side.
My daughter, she's about to start a game art course at Man Met.
Yeah.
And she's super passionate about getting into that. So I've kind of nudged 2 of them in that direction, and it's worked. Well, it's not worked for one of them, and I'm hoping it works for the other. My youngest son doesn't care about developing games. He's all about music and kind of audio production, but hopefully, in a broader kind of field.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just going to say, actually, because, you know, I've no doubt that you'll all come across something really similar. Because we do, you know, parent guilt, it exists, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, you know, whether you're a dad or a mom, it exists. Don't assume what we're thinking. That's the most important thing. Don't set yourself up how we did almost, because it wasn't that I was pressured in any way. I wasn't, you know, the support was there. It was how I was feeling inside. So don't assume that we're thinking that you've got to be there. You've got to go on those work trips.
Yeah.
Come and talk to us. You know, say what you want. And if it doesn't work, we'll be honest about it. And that's where you keep that conversation going is most important.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that needs a round of applause. On the flip side, though, have you ever had it like where you hear your kids talk like, "Oh, my mum, my dad's a studio head"? Like, have you ever heard them like talk like that with their friends and stuff? Because I imagine that they're so proud of like the position that you're all in. Like, it's such an achievement.
My daughter's 12 and she says I'm a cringy middle-aged woman.
I love that. So no.
No.
So, not with my daughters, but with boyfriends and stuff like that. It's kind of like, oh my God, he does what? He does what?
Oh, 100%.
Can you get me the new Call of Duty?
Yeah, 100. I was just about to say that. Can you get me the new PS5? Like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I don't think my kids are particularly starstruck. They're more interested in the people.
They should be. They're going into games. Like, they should be like, my dad.
They're kind of interested in the people that I might know, and I think my daughter had we made the mistake of letting her have a house party,
Oh God.
And it was after lockdown, so just felt really guilty that she'd gone through her 18th birthday without being able to celebrate with friends. So it was like, right, yeah, house party. And I think her drunken friends were quite impressed with our downstairs sort of cloakroom, which has got all the old Sony kind of million copies of this sold, 2 million copies of that from the old racing games.
Yeah.
So they were like rock and roll, and that was like, that was me when I was working crazy hours, and it got my priorities wrong. So.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Did they actually say rock and roll?
No, that's just that's just me looking
head.
back on it, rose-tinted spectacles.
They did in your head. They definitely did in your head. I love
Busted.
that. Oh, amazing. Going back to the original question about setbacks in your career and how you overcame them, like, do you have anything for that?
I think I wrote down 4 as I could talk about any of these. I'll filter it to towards the end of my time at Evolution Studios. I'd been there 16 years. I was really enjoying it. We'd had a bit of a rough patch with Drive Club server concurrency. Thought we'd turned a corner. We're all ready for the PS Plus launch. And then the Sony execs decided that the studio needed to be downsized. And I was given an hour and 50 minutes to decide if I wanted to stay or move on. And I tried to ring my wife, and she was out. I tried to speak to my boss's boss. He was at the dentist. So I
love how much you remember that.
Oh,
He was at the dentist.
Yeah, he was at the dentist. So I spoke to a lady I'd been working with as a coach, and she knew how I'd been feeling about the role at the time. And I just decided it was time for a change. And I went and set up an indie studio. We did one of the PSVR launch titles. It was awesome fun. It was learning. It was ultimately not financially a winner.
Yeah.
But that learning paved the way for me to take the dev director role in Sheffield, and that was the stepping stone to where I am now. So it was a setback, but with hindsight, it kind of gave me the drive to go on for this.
Yeah, definitely. Ed, what about you?
Yeah, a similar one actually. So in 2010, I set up a small mobile studio. Actually, one of the guys, and that went okay for a little while, and then it kind of, I exited it badly, and then had to take a job going back to Codemasters. Actually, that might be a regret. So, but you have to make the most of it. It was kind of, reset on the career a little bit. You take a downward step to go back forwards again, and that's exactly what we did. So I went back to Cody's for 18 months, and then set up Lab 42 literally, 18 months later, pretty much exactly 18 months later. So, you got to pick yourself back up and get back on the horse, really. Yeah,
definitely. No, I totally agree with that one. So this next one's interesting. How has the pandemic changed what you do? With everyone working from home, what actually makes a studio a studio? H, I'm going to go to you for that one.
When we went into lockdown, we were, I think, we're 9 months into our Sumo Leamington journey.
Already living out of boxes anyway. At the...
We just.
I remember I'd call you and you'd be like, "I'm just trying to get through these boxes," and I'm like, "Okay."
Lots of boxes. What we've actually done is, the irony is, we were in quite a cheap office space because it was the only bit that we could get, and then we'd moved into some serviced offices because we actually wanted a open plan space where all the team could be together.
Yes.
And we would, on the day we went into lockdown, we were actually putting up some new meeting rooms as well.
Right.
We used that space for 2 months, and we've not used it since because no one's going in.
Oh, that's a shame.
But what the change for us in Leamington is that our working model is very different now. Is that we are remote first, because we know that all of our people are working brilliantly at home. They've done a really good job and smashed it, and we've grown. Say 20 people. We're 80 plus now, so a lot of people have joined since that period of time, and actually. It's worked really well. So we want to continue. And now we kind of that change from we're doing this because we need to do this and have to do it to we're doing this because we're choosing to do it. So that whole model of how we're working. And then we still want to get people in the studio because, I do believe you can maintain relationships virtually. Yeah. You build relationships when you see people face to face. And we want to do a lot more of that. Yeah. But that's down to individual project teams as well to what works best for them. And we just need to have a a good collaborative space that people want to be in, and they,
Yeah.
you know, and it gives them everything they need. So, you know, we're moving, co-locating to a new location next year as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely, I find it good, obviously, where everybody came in, and I was like running around the studio trying to make everything look nice for everyone coming back in, and I was like, okay, we need to get this sorted and stuff, because I think when you need a nice space, don't you? Like, I think that's really important, especially when you're like working creatively. Like the new room now is like amazing. Like we keep stealing that space, don't we? So yeah, I definitely think it's definitely important. But it's so nice going in and just seeing people in person. But also it was really odd. Like I know I'm stood up here doing this talk, but at first when I was running a scrum with everyone in person after 2 years, I was like, oh, this is a bit weird. I'm used to looking at everyone from a screen. Like I'm not used to like properly. Yeah, so it's crazy.
It's all about that human connection when you're in the studio.
Yes.
It's not about looking at screen, you know,
Yeah.
it's about making sure it's that connection that we've all been missing over the last few years.
Yeah, definitely. What about you for that one, Ed?
So we're very different from that, actually. So we're mostly back in the studio. We're running a hybrid model. Anyone that wants to be in the office full time can be in the office full time.
Nice.
And we've got about 20 people that are doing that right now. We're up at 64, I think, at the minute.
Right.
And then we've got a couple of people that are at home that are fully remote, but that's a really small minority. And then everybody else is working hybrid, which is, for us, is 2 weeks in the office, 2 weeks out of the office. And that allows us to do planning and retrospectives and everything else while people are together and in the office.
Yes.
But also gives people that time at home to be able to crack on with the work that they're doing, but also to do the other bits and pieces that were going on during the pandemic as well. So making sure that the boiler can get changed or whatever else that you can do at home, right?
Sit in your pajamas, basically. While
pretty
you're
much,
in meetings,
And that, I think we're on like rotation 7 or 8 at the moment, so we've done this about 8 times, and it's gone pretty well, even from the first day. I think, you know, it's not been overly laborious on anybody. I don't think anyone's been put in a position where they're not able to work or anything like that. So we're using Parsec a lot. But as a studio, we work really well from home during the pandemic, but actually found that getting back in has really helped with delivering project, but also, you know, that team morale, people seeing other people in the kitchen, having a conversation, figuring out what's going on. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, definitely. Scott?
For me, I mean, there was a personal thing that in working remotely, it meant that people couldn't see I was obsessively taking notes all the time, which I just need to do to keep on.
Yeah, we can see that pen and paper.
Nor, you know, in previous situations, I'd have to apologise for my note taking. It's like, you know, please don't think this is anything sinister. Whereas now I just kind of talk and type.
Now we think it is.
And also for like presentation situations where if you position your script just right next to your camera.
It's great. You can minimise the thing, can't you? You can just like read it off.
You can get it where it looks like you're freestyling when you're not.
Yes.
So right now this is terrifying
Good
for me
technique.
because I'm off script. I think for the team, so I previously wouldn't really have considered remote working. But then as we were starting to build Sumo Warrington, one of the guys I talked to, Wayne, who's here today, he was really looking for a remote role. He'd previously worked with me at Evolution. He'd been working with Slightly Mad, which was one of the studios that had really embraced remote working pre-pandemic. So I thought, right, leap of faith, we're going to go with this remote contract. And then by the time Wayne actually started, the pandemic had struck, everybody was working remotely, and Wayne wasn't the special one anymore. So
You're still special.
That's not on,
You're still very special.
one of the special ones.
Oh my God. You're special to us.
So
Don't listen to him.
I think it's worked really well for the studio because we're focused on external projects.
Yeah.
Quite small teams. We're embedded with their teams. We're kind of inherently remote anyway. We're able to have a kind of internal studio dialogue and an external client-facing dialogue, and it works for us. And we do have a great office space. Sometimes we're able to go in and spend a bit of time there. Sometimes we get to do little social things, but I don't think we need the kind of collaborative and social side of things quite as much, and we're a bunch of programmers. We're perhaps not quite as passionate about the social side of things as maybe some of the other disciplines.
Yeah, that's fair, definitely. I'm really looking forward to this next one. So, can anyone do it, or do you have to be an extrovert? And Ed, you know I'm going to go to you first for this one. No, pass on.
Yeah, of course anybody can do this job. And no, you don't have to be an extrovert. I'm not.
Yeah.
I hate being here right now in front of all these people.
I hate people.
Pretty much. But yeah, of course anybody can do this job. It's there's no job description. Well, there probably is a job description somewhere. But, have you got one?
I worked hard on that job description.
And yeah, I think as the three of us are here, is that we all come to it in a completely different route. So there's no set route to it. So yeah, I think from any discipline you could get to this role.
Yeah, definitely. What's your thoughts? I'll go ahead. Scott, no, I'll go.
Yeah, definitely you don't have to be an extrovert. I think sometimes you have to pretend to be a bit of an extrovert, but I'm completely outside my comfort zone. I kind of built up to this years ago. Somebody encouraged me to do a GDC talk in London when they used to do GDC in London. I worked with a kind of presentation coach person, and they pushed me right outside my comfort zone, and I was shaking and my voice was vibrato. But I obviously didn't do a bad job, because GDC San Francisco asked me to do the same talk over there, and I went and did that about MotorStorm, still on the GDC Vault, and with hindsight I sound terrible, and I can hear all the nervousness in there. It's audio only, so it's kind of not too bad, but yeah, I guess just try and push yourself out of the comfort zone, and you'll change, and you'll feel a bit more comfortable doing these kind of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm obviously an introvert. I might be an extrovert, but it's interesting, because when we talk about this before,
It is super interesting,
because you guys are, the thought of being here petrifies you, and it does me as well.
Yeah,
I hate it, I really do, and I'll avoid it at all costs. But
yeah, even me,
so I think to do this role, it is very varied.
Yes.
So you need to be able to, you need to firefight.
Yes.
You need to be able to work with Gary. You need to. I don't know. You need to care about people.
Yes.
You need to. The three things I say is you need to. It's about clarity to your people, direction, and empathy.
Yeah.
I think they're the kind of character traits you need.
Yeah, definitely. Why do you think that everyone thinks that you need to be like an extrovert? Do you think it is because you need to do, I don't know, run meetings in front of lots of people, stand up in boardrooms? Like, do you think that's why people automatically think, oh, you need to be an extrovert to do this role?
I don't know, because I don't. That was a question from the audience that came through, wasn't it? Before so,
it was just, yeah, but I've just added on.
Because it's interesting, because I would probably say, most people think you don't, and it's more about being an introvert. Because obviously, a lot of people, the path has been code or design, and that might be. But I don't think that matters. It's where you are in your head, I suppose. Yeah,
definitely. Okay, so it's 5 past. Is this talk finishing at 15:15? Yeah. Okay. Shall we? Has anyone got any questions from the audience? I think that might be quite good. I'm going to go to you. I think we've got someone running with a mic.
To not take anything personally, and if you do, how do you deal with taking things? How do you learn to not take things personally? And if you do, how do you deal with when you take something personally that happens that's bad or difficult in the studio?
You bury it really, really, really deep down. And then but you talk to, you've got to have good people around you. I think if you've got good people around you and you can talk that out, then you kind of understand that it's not a personal thing. Or sometimes it is, but most often, people aren't doing things to hurt you or to be nasty people. They're doing them because that's what's right in their lives, and he's seeing it from that point of view, and he's turning it around and trying to turn that nasty thing into a positive thing, I think. But people around you, I think, is the most important thing, having a good team.
I was just going to say, I take Sumo Leamington's my baby. Any criticism, I take it personally, and generally I need to work on that. So yeah, I do think about it's the right people around you, but also take the positive from it as well, and that see what can you do to improve what that thing is.
Yeah, I guess similar for me, kind of compartmentalise as much as possible, so that's Ed's burying it. But it is like not dwelling on it as well, kind of try and move forwards. It's like there's always another day, which hopefully things will be better.
Who is it? Karen, I'll go to you. Thank you. We got the mic.
So obviously,
You don't need it, it's fine. Just like me.
obviously being a studio head is possibly different when you are an independent studio as opposed to being part of a group. I suppose it's a question to Ed. Obviously, we're here today because we're part of the collective and the strength of numbers. So what is the biggest difference being a studio head independent head than being part of,
Good question.
That is a good question.
Yeah. He's not prepared.
I'm really not.
He's not prepared.
But so when we were independent, I'll put it in air quotes because I'm an idiot. We had to do everything. So we had to do all of our own finance, HR, and everything. And you're doing it on a much smaller budget. And so everything that you do is trying to make sure that you're still going to be able to pay the wage bill at the end of the month, really. When we came into Sumo, a lot of that went. A lot of the kind of those issues went away. Really, the thing that I think changed massively at that point was you become that one sole pivot point for the group, rather than your team kind of being part of the everyday of what's going on with the finances, what's going on with HR, what's going on with people. I think that's been the biggest change in that. It's now kind of me being the throughput into group, rather than the entire management team really taking that on a day-to-day basis. I don't know whether that answers the question or not, but yeah.
what about the having the support of the other studio directors and being part of that sort of team?
And I think that is probably the one thing that you kind of rally around as well. When we all get together, you do find out that we've all got the same issues, the same problems, but also we've got the same wins as well. So yeah, and having that, you're not on an island anymore. You are kind of you're all on a big island really together. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. It's a big support network actually. Yes.
When we were doing the talks, like when we were on like meetings with these, I had to stop them so many times going off on a tangent. Oh, you're using Parsec. How's that working out? And I was like, guys, come on, we're not talking about this now. It's funny. Yeah, go for it. I think we got the mic.
What are the most important skills that helped you on your career path? What do you think?
Oh, interesting. Scott, you go.
I think for me, it's not really a skill, but just having a bit of a vision for everything that you're doing and being passionate about that. You can't really succeed if you're ambivalent. So yeah, trying to care about what you're doing and why you're doing it is a pretty big thing. Skills-wise, for me, it's been attention to detail. That's come in quite handy over the years, but just generally being diligent and kind of keeping lots of plates spinning and making sure that you don't break that many.
I was just trying to think which skills I thought I had, but I think it's more of it is you're a generalist, and what you need to do is try not to get in the weeds, because you're not helping the team if you do that. So it's being slightly removed from what's going on, and so having that whole holistic view.
Yeah.
Diplomacy, I think, because you've got to do it on both ways. Really, it's you've got to be diplomatic with your team, but also you've got to go up the chain as well and be diplomatic that way too. So yeah, I think diplomacy would be the thing that I would say is the biggest skill that you need.
All right. Anyone else? Yeah.
I'm just interested to know what you think the most difficult part of the role is.
What's the most difficult part of the role?
Answering that question.
Just for 5.
Do you know, it's really hard to answer that because I think there is loads of things that are everything's difficult, right? But I'll go back to I think it is about making sure you have the right people. It's having the right people on the bus in the right seats. That is the most difficult thing.
Yeah, that is good. Ed's like, I'm stealing that.
Crumbs, for me, the most difficult thing is it's people again, but more from a recruiting standpoint, to be able to grow, and growth is the big thing for me. Trying to, I just know our success is scalable. We have a great way of working. We have great support services, and being able to bring more people into that family will let us achieve more. But there's just such a shortage of talented people out there to bring in. We've got most of them already, and trying to find ways to accelerate that, and all the work the learning and development team are doing to accelerate learning of new talent, but finding better ways to bring people in from other studios, from other countries, and that's all work that's ongoing across the group.
I'd say every day is different. Every single day you're doing something completely different. So one day you're doing something that's nothing to do with game dev and everything to do with people, and then the next day you've got to make difficult decisions about games and everything else. So I think the hardest bit is juggling those things, but ensuring that you're making the right calls or the right decisions on every single one of them. So yeah, I think that's the most difficult thing.
Yeah, definitely. I might choose one over this side of the room because I've not done it yet. Yeah. I'll come back to you. We got the microphone.
Have you got any tips the biggest thing I struggle with is I'm very passionate about our people and looking after them, make sure they're not doing overtime, making sure they're getting all the support they need. And I'll be the first person to be like, why are you on Teams? Go home, stop working. Yeah. I cannot, for the life of me, apply that to myself.
Yes.
And I put so much pressure on myself that if I was talking to one of our employees, I'd be like, no, absolutely not. We would never expect you to do that. When it comes to me, I'm just like, I have to do that. That's a thing that I must do.
Yep.
Kind of practice what you preach.
But it is, it's really difficult.
Really struggle with it.
It's really difficult to do that. But you've got to lead by example.
Yeah.
And actually, if people see you doing it, then,
I totally agree.
It doesn't stick.
Yeah.
You hide it.
Hide it now. Hide it now.
No, I totally agree with that. When I've seen my managers go on holiday, mine's on holiday at the moment, and he hasn't messaged or been on Teams, whatever, and he's had a proper break. I don't know, it's made me feel better. Okay, when I go on holiday, I'm gonna have a proper break, because you need it though. You need to switch off. It's better because then you're gonna come back more refreshed, I always think.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That there's reason we only do the hours that we do, and it's not healthy. And it goes back to when we were talking about how it impacted our families and stuff. It just that's the impact.
Yes.
And so for me as well, one of our values at Sumo Leamington is trust and respect. And what I say is trust is a feeling, respect is trust in action. So it all if you want people to trust you, they've got to feel it. So you kind of got to live by what you say.
I think one of the things, I guess it was a benefit that came out of working from home for me that improved my kind of lead by example was finding it easier to take a lunch break. 26 years in the games industry, and I've generally eaten a sandwich at my desk.
Yeah.
And greasy keyboards. And I just can't help myself. But when I'm at home and my wife's about, I'll stop and make a sandwich and sit down and we'll watch half an episode of Taskmaster. I should watch a whole episode of Taskmaster. you know, if you're making a bacon sandwich, then you can do that because you're not going to make your keyboard even greasier. It's okay. And I think things like just getting into a bit of a routine, but then I've gone back to spending 2 or 3 days a week in the studio. And at least one of those I treat myself to a walk into town and a nice sandwich, which is great. But there are a couple of days when I take my sad little butty box in, and put it in the fridge, and then I'll sit at my desk, and it's like bad habits coming back. Stop it, Scott.
Butty box. We're not going to get into the bread debate, are we? It's a bread cake. Don't go there.
I think the thing that's helped me actually over the last sort of 6-8 months really has been randomly the commute into and out of work really, because when I was at home I didn't switch off at all. I was constantly there and constantly working, but with the commute back it kind of does segregate that work and home thing for me. So listening to some music or listening to the news or whatever on the way home has kind of puts you into that kind of, right, I'm going home now, this is the home thing, rather than being at work. So that for me has been a big one, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Get a dog. Yeah, perfect. Right, we are definitely out of time. So, yeah, I think that's about everything. So, massive round of applause. Enjoy your day, and we'll speak to you all later on.